Hello, welcome and good evening, everyone. This is Texan Tailgate, episode 23. My name is Samantha, and I'm going to be your host for this evening. We have a really great episode planned for you with a host who I've been looking forward to speaking to for quite some time. You might be wondering where Robert is this evening. Well, I figured after what he's put forth through the past few weeks, he was due for a taste of his own medicine. So I went ahead and locked him up in my basement for the night. And I have a series of musicals on replay for torture. All right, just kidding. He's actually backstage with the rest of our team. They'll be coming out shortly, followed by our guest for tonight. I did just want to take a quick opportunity to introduce myself for those of you who might not be familiar with me. As I said, my name is Samantha. I've been in crypto since the summer of 2021, and I joined the Texan team back in July of last year, a couple weeks after launch. I consider myself very fortunate to be a part of such a wonderful team that's comprised of really loving, caring, selfless individuals, and to also work towards a mission that Texan represents, which is freedom and sovereignty for everyone. And so without further ado, we'll go ahead and bring in the rest of the team so we can say hi to everyone. We have Hexy Quinn. Good evening.
Good evening.
And we have Stacy, which is David Lee's wife, for those of you who might not be familiar.
Hello.
Very honored to have her tonight. We have Erwin, Facing Reality. Good evening.
Good evening.
We have Steve. Welcome.
Hello.
And Robert.
Robert got out. Robert got out.
Only if I agreed to help tonight was I allowed to get out of the basement because I can't.
Exactly.
I can't
They came
do
with
musicals.
conditions.
Okay.
Yes.
Thanks, Robert.
How are y'all doing tonight?
Great.
Doing good. Wonderful.
Good?
Yeah,
Awesome.
can't complain. Just had an amazing thunderstorm. It's always beautiful
Nice.
to see. So yeah.
Yeah, we've had a couple of those here recently. Okay. Well, thank y'all for joining. I'm really looking forward to tonight, and I'm looking forward to our guest of honor. So I guess I'll go ahead and introduce her. Whenever I first, welcome. All right, welcome, SJ. SJ is one of the people I've been looking forward to speaking to for quite some time. When I first joined Hex, I actually had no idea there was like a Hexakin community. I was in Hex for upwards towards a year before I really started learning about, all the different content creators and the people within the community. And SJ was one of the first people who I came across when I was on YouTube. And I was really drawn to her overall personality and her kindness and how genuine she was. And most specifically, like how positive she was. And so something I've been looking forward to for quite some time. So welcome, SJ.
Thanks so much. Hopefully my internet holds up because it was totally fine until just a second ago. Everything got kind of choppy, but it's awesome to be here. I feel like this is like a full circle journey for me because I back in the day, right before Texan became a token, I was helping the Texan team with their social media, and it's been a minute. I really am stoked to be here.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Well, before we get started into the topics for tonight, we can say hi to chat, say hello to everyone. Online Ghost, thank you for being here. You're here almost every single time. Logan, good evening. Hex Glenn, hello, good evening.
What's up?
Drex. Hi, Drex. Good to see you. We're going to have you on sometime.
He's on, been one of the biggest supporters on every single time.
He is. Hi, Hex Force. Love the star. your name. All right. So as Robert rolls through that, SJ, did you want to give the chat kind of a brief introduction of yourself before we get started into the main topics for tonight?
Sure. So let's see. I'll just try to Reader's Digest version my hex, how I got here, who I am, how all this craziness happened. So I got into hex via my good friend Crypto Kool-Aid. He and I have been friends for a decade now, and we met on the dance floor. We both love drum and bass, and we met in Austin dancing. And he did not know that, well, in 2017, I mentioned Bitcoin on Facebook at some point. He reached out to me and helped me kind of diversify, and then I forgot about crypto. And then years later, it's 2021, he had no idea what was going on in my life, but reached out to me about hex. I happened to have been selling my house and looking for places to put my economic energy at the time. And that's how I got into hex. It was really cool the way that it worked out, because as brilliant as Kool-Aid is, he told me not to listen to him. He was like, look, like, I'm your friend. You trust me. I want you to listen to these other content creators. So I did that. I listened. Well, Wales Only really kind of was the one that made it make sense for me, because I had just taken an options trading course. So with his, like, the jargon that he uses, because he works with the stock market, I understood a T-share like nearly right away. And I was just like, well, this makes way more sense than anything else that, you know, I'm putting my money into. Like, why would I do anything else? So that's how I got into hex. And I didn't know who Richard was at all for a good, like, 6 months. Like, I heard his name. I knew he was the founder, but I didn't know anything about him. And then when I was finally ready and I was like, all right, look, I'm invested in this. I feel very confident. The little last step for me was like, you know, even though I'm already invested, I really want to feel like I'm sure about this. So who is Richard? Who is this guy? Like, why does everyone, you know, like, some people hate him, some people worship the ground he walks on, right? So I didn't know a thing.
Very polarizing.
Yeah, exactly. So to find out more about him, I don't remember where I found SciVive, to be honest with you. I can't recall how I found out that he had written SciVive. Probably, maybe I started watching his streams or something and he had mentioned it. So I was like, okay, I'm going to read SciVive. Well, the PDF was a mess. And then I'm an audiobook person. So I was like, well, there's got to be an audiobook, right? This guy's, you know, so popular. I'm sure there's something out there. And there wasn't. It was a text to speech, like, very robotic version of an audiobook. And I just thought, you know, I'm going to read it anyways. I've never done an audiobook, but let's just go for it, right? I'm sure someone will appreciate it, right? Like, I did it selfishly because I wanted an audiobook version of this thing that I was about to read. So that was it. I mean, like, when I did SciVive, I had no idea the implications. I didn't know how well received it was going to be. I had no idea that there were people who, I mean, I've been told time and time again that people would not have read it if it wasn't for listening to my voice, right? Like, or like, you know, I'm dyslexic, you know, I don't like reading, this, that, or the other thing. So to have made such an impact, it really, like, kind of shook me, because I'm the kind of person that's very passionate about everything. Like, if I'm into something, I'm in it. Like, I'm about it, right? Like, I don't do half-ass nothing. Like, I'm all in. So when I started to find purpose through that, it really just, like, ignited my soul. And I was like, wow, like, this is really something that I have enjoyed doing. I love being a part of this community. I'm appreciated here. Like, you know, and that's part of, like, my whole thing about the positivity is that where I'm at financially right now, like, I have no gains from this ecosystem, but the fact that my life has changed substantially and I'm on the road doing this pulse chain tour thing, kind of living my best life, like, I couldn't ask for more. So that's how I got here, and that's where I'm at, and that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, perfect. So that was actually one of the first things I want to speak to you about was the Pulse Chain Tour. So how did you get into that? Like, how did the bus come about? How did you decide to be one of the main people going on it? How did that happen?
so that was just all, and this is something I talk about often, and I think I see a lot of other people in our community speak on, is serendipity, right? I
Mhm.
feel like there are so many synchronicities that happen within our community, and honestly, my life, it was just life situation. My car broke down, and at the same time, the place that I was living in Texas, in Austin, was not going to be available to me anymore. So I was like, all right, I need something to drive and I need a place to live. And I had previously experienced van life. I had been living in a van, in a Sprinter van, with a previous boyfriend of mine. And then that relationship ended and other things were going on, and, you know, all this stuff was happening. And I was just like, all right. So I took, you know, this little bit I had left over and invested it into this bus, and was like, all right, cool, now I've got something to drive and somewhere to live at the same time. So and even before the bus happened, in fact, while I was still with my ex and living in the Sprinter van, I was committed to, I told Black Hexagon, I said, when you do the tour next year, when you guys go, I want to be there. Like, I want to go with you. I want to be a part of this caravan, because I just thought it was so amazing what the KSB team had done and all the different places they had gone. And I mean, I'm about that mobile life. So
Mhm.
I had already planned to go along with the KSB team and do this whole tour. Well, as things developed and price stayed down and bear market was happening, right? Like, didn't seem like that was happening anymore with that team. So KSB, they were kind of all spread out and not going to do a tour in the US anyways. And I was looking for different ways to work within our ecosystem, because I've already come from the 9 to 5. I left that world years ago. I've gone
Good
from
for
there
you.
and never to return, because I just can't. So I did things, I do gig work, I do acting, I do voice work, you know, so there's all these little things I do. And I was like, all right, what can I do in our space that I could possibly get paid for and continue living my life the way that I'm living it? And so Texan was one thing that I did for a little while. And then I reached out to RG3, and I was like, because I had done a little bit of work for him in the past, just like helping with editing things. And I think I wrote his bio, put something like that together. So I reached out to him again, and I was like, hey man, like, I'm looking for work. I don't want to go back into default world. Like, is there anything that I can do that you guys need that, you know, I can somehow get paid for and, you know, do this thing? And he was like, yeah, actually, I've been thinking about going on tour and putting this team together to go around the states and talk about the Pulse Chain. And this was months before Pulse Chain launched. I mean, I think we were talking about it in February or March. Probably like around March is when we kind of started just like talking about the possibility of doing it. And then as we started to kind of, you know, what's the word, brainstorm about it and try to figure things out, RG was like, well, let me reach out to Black Hexagon, because, you know, obviously she just did the last tour. She's
Mhm.
got a lot of resources. I want to pick her brain and see, you know, what her advice is for this. Well, that conversation turned into her becoming our tour manager and jumping on board and being a part of the team as well. And thank goodness, because that wouldn't, this would not be happening without her. I say that every time because it's true.
Yeah.
Like,
I've heard you
so
speak
much
on
work.
like how much that she does and how hard she works for everything.
100%. Like, she's just an amazing woman, period. Like, she and I got to work together for the first time at the Pulse Masters tour. I was like, what can I do? How can I help? And it turns out we're a great team. Like, she and I work really well together. We complement each other's strengths and weaknesses. So it's a really
Nice.
great, like, the three of us all work well as a team. And we got, you know, there's a couple other guys doing things. Bullish does some stuff in the background.
Mhm.
We got another guy that's doing some marketing stuff. See how that goes. But that's pretty much it. That's how it all started. And the coolest thing to me is that our G3 was going to do this whether Pulse Chain launched or not.
Okay. That was already
He
something in
wanted
the
to
works.
go around, and onboard people and get them into the system and tell them about all of this. So whether or not Pulse Chain was, because we started the tour before it did launch. Like, we were already had
Right.
all the dates planned and all the places to go, and just so happened it launched like weeks before our first event. So
Yeah.
again, timing, synchronicity, It just everything worked out really well. So
So
that's
how
it
has
started.
it been? How has it been? You're what, a little more than halfway through now? There's a few more events still upcoming, and then you're ending with the cruise, right?
Right. So technically the cruise is like the end of the year, but we do have one more event in Vegas after that. It's just not solid yet on the date and like how that's all going to work.
Okay.
We're trying to work with dollar cost crypto on that one.
Mhm.
And like, I think he wants to do New Year's, but we're like not about Vegas at New Year's.
I
Like,
don't blame
so
you.
we'll
I don't
see.
think
We'll
I'm
see what
about
happens.
Vegas, period, but especially New Year's.
Yeah, but I'll be
So,
there.
so how's it been? What are some highlights from the past events? What are some great experiences you've had so far?
Oh man, so one of the highlights was the first event. Dublin was off the hook. Like, we had so many people show up to that event. It was great. It was kind of like overwhelmingly wonderful because we had more people show up than expected. It's been a little frustrating since then because that was our largest event so far, was Dublin. And it's been tough getting the seats filled and the tickets sold. And it's hard because it's like, on one hand, we like, it's a bear market, yes, and in hindsight, I feel like we all could have done more to get the word out to people that are not in our ecosystem. But then
Okay.
at the same time, it's like, KSB didn't have to do that because it was a bull market. So, it just wasn't really a thought, right? Like, we just
Right.
thought people were going to come out for this and learn about things and do all this, right? So it's been a little bit of this, a little bit of that.
Yeah. I heard him
the
speaking on it, and it seemed like he had a similar feeling regarding it. Like, he wished more people would come out. Whenever I
Absolutely.
heard that there was going to be a location near me, I think I booked the tickets that day or the next
Nice.
day. I checked. Robert will be coming with me, as well as my boyfriend Logan. So I just checked
Awesome.
with them, and I booked mine as soon as I could. I was like, I don't want it to sell out before I could get my tickets.
Yeah,
But
that's the thing.
yeah, so that one's this upcoming Saturday in Atlanta.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, in 6 days.
yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. Looking forward to getting to meet you in person.
Yeah.
Did anyone have any questions for SJ regarding Pulse Chain?
Not
Regarding that,
directly,
but-
but it is freaking amazing to meet people in Meetup. So I'm looking forward to you all meeting because I know the feeling that it gave me back then. So yeah, enjoy.
Yeah, we'll send pictures.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be my very first one.
Yeah,
So
same.
I
Yeah.
did the Hex tour when it came to Columbus. Man, I don't even remember. That was like July or August of 21, I think. 21. So I met Black Hex and I met KSB, met Maddie. It was an awesome event, and that was my first like real exposure to like actual people in the Hexagon community, other than Rags or. I think we maybe had like 10 people in the Rags to Riches chat at the time. And so it was like it was good to see. And it was awesome to see everyone there. But Samantha, you mentioned Robert was going to be there, but you didn't mention that I was going to be there as well on Saturday. So I will also be there.
Sorry, Immutable will be there as well. Looking forward to meeting Immutable in person also. Were you going to
I'm
say
getting
something?
jealous.
You can come.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, I'm super jealous of SJ because I bet she's met so many people. Like, I went on to the U.S. Tour. God, it was like 2 years ago, and met Black Hexagon and a few other people, and it was just a good time. I just couldn't imagine traveling to each good time, like, and not knowing, who's all gonna be there and who you're gonna meet when you get there. It's got to be fun, exciting.
Were there any locations in particular that you were excited to go to? Like just the cities or states themselves?
You said, are there any, sorry, it was breaking up a little. You asked if there's any
okay.
like locations I was excited to go to?
Yeah. Like anywhere you haven't seen before that you were looking forward to going to? Or have you traveled pretty much everywhere?
I've traveled a lot. I've honestly, like, I've been around the States several times, just either through work or just the van life and things like that. I will say the one place I did not expect that I loved was Charlotte, man. I think I'm going to end up there buying some piece of property and building a tiny house because I just had the most fun. Everyone was awesome. Like, all of the people were really nice. Like, it reminded me of what Austin was like when I moved there 15 years ago, but like a smaller version of that and better. So Charlotte super surprised me. Everywhere else I'd kind of either been or, had spent time. I love being in Chicago. I spent a lot of time there in the last couple of years, and I really like that city a lot as well. So that was a fun one to go to. And another cool thing is that it's been really surprising, all of the little places that I've stopped in between, all of the little towns where I'll stop at a gas station and someone will come up to me and said, I sacrificed for Pulsex. I'm like, I'm in the middle of nowhere. Who are you?
Cool.
Yeah. So that's been the most surprising thing, is that not in the big cities, but on the outskirts, in all these little places, I've had people come up to me and like say hi or tell me that they know who Richard Hart is. I was in between Salt Lake City and Denver, in some tiny town like just outside of Salt Lake City. And that happened. A couple of guys that were European. I couldn't tell you from where, but they were like, yeah, no, we know Richard Hart, and like, we saw your bus. And that's been the coolest thing, is just having people reach out who either do or may not know, but it's always happened in the little towns along the way where it's someone is going to either like contact me via email to find out what Pulse Chain is, or they know and they're like, oh, what's going on? Like, why is the bus here? So that's been surprising and awesome.
Yeah, that's cool.
What stops are left on the tour?
So this weekend is Atlanta. And then after Atlanta is Miami. And then, so Atlanta is a big masterclass, right? Like, that's an all day long seminar. And that's been a cool thing too, is that nearly every event has been different. Like, we've had like RG does a similar speech every time, but like every time he does it, it's different and a little bit like the last time he did it in Charlotte, I was just like, wow. Like, I was blown. I was like, I've heard this like 10 times and I helped write the whole thing, but he really blew me away in the way that it was presented. So anyway, so Atlanta, Miami, Dallas is a meetup. So Miami is another big like conference. Dallas is a meetup. That's going to be at CZ's place up in Dallas. And then Austin is another conference. And then Dallas, Austin, Phoenix. I believe Phoenix is a meetup. And then LA is where the cruise is coming out of. So the cruise is leaving out of Long Beach, and it's a 7-day cruise to Cabo San Lucas. They're going to dock in San Diego as well. And then, like I said, after that, in January, it's either the end of the tour or the beginning of the next tour is going to kick off in Vegas. It kind of like RG's kind of serious about, depending on where the market is and what's going on at that time, we might just continue and keep going with this. So I'm hopeful. I really loved this. And I think that if we start running into the bull, that it really will take off and we can get a lot more people onboarded and, someday, like RG says, fill stadiums with people about, true DeFi and what it really means to have financial freedom through these products.
Definitely. So as far as the people who come, like, what would you say the percentages of people who are already in the ecosystem versus people who are just coming to learn about it?
I'd say it's like 80-20 or like 85-15. So most people know, most of the people that are there have already been a part of the ecosystem, but there's definitely always a no coiner, someone that, hasn't gotten into crypto at all. There's usually at least like 2 to 5 people that
That's
just
awesome.
have no clue and are there because their friend sent them or their kid sent them or, something.
Yeah, I was going to say, how are they hearing about it?
Yeah, usually it's word of mouth. It's someone else that does know about the ecosystem has sent them. I try real hard. I'm hoping, because I'm going to be in Atlanta this whole week. So I'm going to really push hard and put a lot of posters out there and like try to go to all these coffee shops. Like that's really my hope, is to get at least one person off the street to come to one of these things, because that, how cool would that be that someone was just like, oh, I just saw the flyer. And I'm not sure if that's happened yet. I know that we did have flyers put up in Chicago, Seattle, I think one other city we were able to do that. But it's hard to tell, you can't really tell. Like, I'm not going to go up there and ask, like, anybody come here because of a flyer? So, so yeah, it's definitely, and this has been our biggest push, this Atlanta masterclass, because, we're almost more than halfway through the tour. All of us are, kind of a little frustrated at this point, because it's like we've put in all our time, energy, and our own funds to make this happen. And it's just been, the turnout has just been real low. And like I was saying before, it's I think we, without knowing and in hindsight, really would have been great to get this word out to other people somehow outside of our ecosystem, because I think it's great for everyone, right? Like someone I saw in the comments, right, was saying that they went and they learned a lot. They really liked the speakers, right? But you could come in off the street not knowing anything about crypto and walk away from this with a whole lot of knowledge. And that's really the goal, right? That's really what we've wanted. And the cool thing has been is most of the time our giveaways have gone to no coiners, because what'll happen is it's a raffle, right? So someone who's in the ecosystem will win the raffle and just be like, I'm good, I pass. And they'll pass it on, and then we'll pull another ticket, right? And then that chain kind of, like, that's happened a couple times where we just have people that are just like, no, we want someone that doesn't know or hasn't gotten into this or has a smaller bag, right, to have this Pulse or PulseX.
That's awesome. Okay, so do you want to speak a little bit on, I noticed you started doing live streams titled the Pulse Chain Positivity Podcast. Yeah. So do you want to speak a little bit on that, and, just kind of your mission in general to bring positivity into the ecosystem?
Yeah, for sure. So I feel like that was kind of a natural course for me, from going from having SciVive be what I was revolving my content around, into really embodying what Richard talks about in SciVive, and wanting to see, just like Richard does, wanting to see other people succeed and wanting to see other people be their best selves and move forward. I've been very fortunate in life that that's kind of been my I don't know, like my state of being.
I was going to ask you if that came natural to you.
Absolutely. Yeah, it really does. And I feel very fortunate in that, because I know so many people that it just doesn't, right? There's so many people out there that constantly worry or are depressed or self-deprecating or just all these different things. And I feel grateful that my temperament is such that I am just a positive person. Like, I just always look on the bright side. I always see the silver lining in the clouds, right? And if I've been told over the course of my life many times that I'm inspirational, but I never embraced it. I was never like, it was always like, oh, tee-hee, thanks, sometimes it's been hard to take a compliment for a long time in my life. And I feel like in the last probably like 3 to 4 years have really started to be more confident. And I've really started to want to find my purpose and to know that I am contributing to the world in some way. And if me being a happy, shiny, positive person is something that other people are attracted to and it helps them, then I'm going to do that. So that's basically where that's coming from. And I feel like it was in part seeing all of the negativity and everyone just so downtrodden and beat up, and it sucks. I mean, like, this is brutal. I've never been through a crypto cycle. This is my first crypto cycle, my first bear market. But what a bear market for us to go through. Like, it is just dragging on forever. Every time I think we've hit the bottom, it gets worse. And I don't mean
Yeah.
financially. I mean, like that too, but just
Yeah.
like people's attitudes, people leaving the community, people at each other's throats about the dumbest shit. Like, come on, that's a big reason why I started doing it, because I was like, I'm just gonna try and sprinkle a little bit of happy on all these shit sandwiches and see what happens, because it's just a lot. And part of like being on this tour and doing this and seeing people, I think that's also why I wanted to stream, is because we're not gone, right? This community, and that's what I love about this community, is that I feel like right now, y'all right here, everyone in the chat, this group of people, like, we are gonna be the most galvanized, time-tested, truest community members that there are, because we're not going anywhere. We haven't gone anywhere. And we're obviously still here doing what we're doing in order to, bring more eyes into this ecosystem, even though no one cares right now. That's what it feels like, right? No one wants to hear about crypto, but
It'll
we're just
pay off.
doing it. Yeah, exactly. That's the thing too, is like, we never know what kind of ripples we're making, right? It's really hard to see, especially when every sentiment is down and everyone's just kind of bummed about things, right? You never know who you might have spoken to, or I never know who might have seen pulsechaintour.com on the side of this bus and Googled it, right?
Mhm.
And then like found out, gone down that rabbit hole. I'll never know. But maybe someday I will. Maybe sometime in the bull market, someone's gonna be like, "Hey, I got here because I saw your bus."
Yeah.
Like, so that's why I do, what I'm doing, and why I want to continue bringing positivity. I don't know how long I'm gonna keep doing that. I mean, like, as long as I feel like I can, and I want to also start bringing more longevity content into that, because I feel like a lot of this goes hand in hand, right? Like crypto, especially Hex specifically, because of the way we do our 5555 mines stakes.
Mhm.
I forget. What do we call them now?
You were talking about this yesterday. I still call it staking. I still call X Twitter like I don't know. I don't do change too well. So
yeah, that was a tough one.
So yeah, and I think it's really interesting. I know you said for you it's natural to be positive, and that's just something like a certain way you've always been. But I think it's important for people to know, like, these behaviors and personality traits, like, they also can be learned. So for me, I have not always been like a very like positive person. I haven't always been someone who like looked on the bright side of things. I have been kind of negative. But when I realized that, I acknowledged it and I decided I didn't want to be that way. I then was able to make the changes. And it was very empowering because for a lot of my life, I kind of lived in that like victimhood mentality. Like, this is what life handed me. This is just how it is. These are the circumstances. And it was really empowering when I realized that it's a choice. Like, you get to choose how you respond to things. You get to choose what perspective, you look through. And so I think that's something important for people to know. Like, just because you see someone who carries themselves in a certain way, it doesn't mean that that is natural. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not, but you can choose to be who you want to be and how you want to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And just to add on that real quick, I mean, our energy flows where our attention goes. And one of the best things that's helped me stay positive during this bear market is just to take a look at all the people who are just focused on building some of the greatest innovative tools, protocols, smart contracts, and just things that are going to make our lives better. And you've got all these great founders, teams, all these people that are just focused on, trying to bring out the very best that we can. So I think this is a really good time to be thankful for one another, be thankful for what we have, and thankful for,
Definitely.
what's coming our way. So it's this is my
Yeah, there's
first.
a lot to look forward to.
Yes.
Yes, but
Oh,
don't
yeah.
be in a hurry.
No.
You were saying this is your first bear market, right?
Yeah, this is my first bear market, and I got into crypto around July of 2021. Not knowing what I was doing, just buying. Anytime I had money, I was like, "Ooh, I'm buying that like right now." And it's when I look at Pulse Chain, the one thing that makes it, truly special when we take a look at other blockchains that have launched previously is you have about 150, if not more, layer twos projects that want to launch on the Pulse chain. And a lot of times, when blockchains first come out, they're like a ghost chain. It takes a significant amount of time for them to gain adoption and traction. But it's really amazing to see all of you out there on the roads trying to onboard and educate and bring as many people in as possible. And I think the way we succeed is, trying to bring as many people who just are not into crypto, like, bring them in. So, but
For sure. So with SciVive, you mentioned longevity, which was
Mhm.
something else I wanted to speak to you about. And I think this is something Stacy might be interested in as well. So you said it goes hand in hand with SciVive. So was SciVive what introduced you into the idea of longevity? Was that your first introduction?
Yes. Yeah, I had never heard of longevity before. And the 10th chapter of SciVive is called Longevity.
Okay.
Yeah. So honestly, I think so I've been doing these quotes. Originally I was going to do 365, but then I realized that Richard uses I forget what, or when the number, the 369.
369. Yeah.
Yeah, but is it is it Fibonacci related?
No, it's the golden ratio.
The golden ratio. There we go. So
Yes.
and Richard loves that 369 golden ratio. So I was like, oh, I'll just tack on a few more and I'll do 369 SciVive quotes. So these last few I'm on, the ones that I'm doing right now, I think are from Space, which is I think the 9th chapter, and then the rest of them at the end are all going to be from Longevity. And I really think Longevity is one of the best chapters in the entire book. It's just it's such a cool thing to get into, to start to learn about, because it's, to a lot of people, they're thinking, okay, you're going to put my consciousness into a computer, or we're going to be AI robots or something like that. That's not what this is. What longevity is, hold on, I wrote a couple notes from watching Brent Nally, who was a guest on my my show recently. He did a great stream with Richard, and he goes over a couple of different like really basic ways to explain longevity. So there's two things I want to say. Really what longevity is, it's staying healthy as long as possible. And then secondly, longevity is extending your health span. It's increasing the time that you have a good quality of life. That's what longevity is.
Okay.
It's not this crazy, you're going to be a robot, or you're going to, put your consciousness into a computer. There are sects of longevity where people are into that kind of stuff, right? And that, I think there are also other words and other terms for that. But in the core of what it is, longevity is living healthily as long as you possibly can. And from what I've studied so far, and Aubrey de Grey is one of the leading experts in this field, and that I learned about him through Richard, of course. He speaks about Aubrey in SciVive, so that's where I learned about all of this.
Oh.
And when you start kind of going down the rabbit hole, you find that there are different people within the longevity community have different takes on different things. The science is constantly evolving. And this is such a new, I mean, granted, I think people have been doing this for many years now, especially someone like Aubrey, right? This has been his life's work for decades. But as the science continues to come out and more research is done and more studies are done, you know, like today I learned, I saw 2 videos that really just kind of changed my mind on a couple of things. And one thing that I've kind of been going down the rabbit hole on is diet. Now, I've been a vegan, I've been a vegetarian, I was a pescatarian, I've done all these different things, and I like it all. I love food. I'm starting to learn now how important protein is. And one of the things I heard today was it you can still do it as a vegetarian, but it's going to be more difficult. It's going to be a little harder for you to get the certain, like the essentials that you need if you're doing it as a vegetarian. But either way, we need way more protein than we think we need. And so I've started having more animal protein in my diet. I went to a farmer's market this last weekend and I bought 1.5 pounds of beef. And that's going to be like the staple of my diet for the next few days. Which is different for me. It's kind of weird for me. At this point, what I want to try and do is eat ethically, right? So if I'm going to go buy meat, I'm going to get it from a farmer's market, right? Like I don't want to go to just a store and eat a cow that had a sad life, but that's neither here nor there. That's kind of just like my own take on this. So eating well is really important for longevity. Sleep is huge. If you're not sleeping 7 to 9 hours a night, your lifespan may be cut a little bit shorter. And there's all these different ways. In fact,
Erwin,
yeah,
you need to log off and go to sleep.
Gotta go to bed. Yeah, sleeping is huge for longevity. And so like the 3 easiest things to talk about are diet, sleep, and exercise. I mean, if you just did those 3 things, you know, like those would significantly expand your health span. So, you know, some people think longevity is this big, you know, concept that you have to like figure out all this stuff and grasp all these things and take all these supplements and do all this stuff, right? But
yeah,
at the end of the day, sleep, exercise, and eat well.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of other things that you can add into that, and a lot of other, you know, regimens that people do and things that people try, but that's the basic. Those are the basic things that you want to try to start doing in your life. And you know, that who wouldn't benefit from those things, right? Like it seems like that's a really kind of good way to go. And it really is exciting to me that this all came from crypto. Like I started learning about all of this because I got into Hex. Like it's great. And I love learning. I'm a student of the world. I constantly want to be reading and learning new things. So, I mean, my whole life is just fantastic right now because I feel like I'm not just putting out great content and like doing things that are helping other people, but I'm helping myself, right? So it's like as much as I'm helping myself, I want to help others.
So other than adding protein to your diet, have there been any other changes that you've made, like lifestyle changes that you've made that have come out of some of the longevity research that you've seen?
Weightlifting. I do a lot more strength training than I used to. So that's something that I've added a lot. I'm trying to think of what else. I'm fortunate again that I sleep well. Like I very rarely have trouble sleeping. So that's always been something that's been like fine for me. There are a couple supplements that I started taking because of longevity. And I don't hear this really too much in the longevity community, or if I have, it's been touched on very briefly and I haven't really looked into it, but I take mushroom supplements. Paul Stamets, I'm a big fan of him and what he does and all of his stuff. So I take a Paul Stamets mushroom supplement every day.
I take mushroom supplements too.
Yeah, I think mushrooms are great. Like all sorts of kinds of them. they're fantastic. And NMN, not M&Ms, is a really good one. And there's a couple other supplements that I started taking because I learned about them through longevity. The other thing that I've done is I did I sent in my blood work to get tested to see not my biological age, but just, you know, where my levels are at. I'm starting to become more aware and just again, just like crypto, right? Not your keys, not your coins. Like, I don't want to go to a doctor that doesn't know jack about anything and is just going to tell me to take a pill and, you know, cover up and mask whatever it is that I'm experiencing, right? I'm
Good luck
taking
in
my
finding
health into
that
my
one.
own hands.
Yeah. There's one I could add, and that is your perception or consciousness of time.
Mm.
And that's the most important thing so if you look back in your childhood, how fast did time get or go? Time looked like an eternity.
Yeah.
The only reason when time actually made definite sense for you is when you get to school, get to work, get all those things, because what they want you to do is always be aware of your time and the time that you spend. That's why they want you to celebrate your birthday every year. They forcing you to constantly think of yourself getting older.
Mm-hmm.
Stop giving your birthday. Don't celebrate your birthday. You're not supposed to celebrate your birthday. You're not
I
supposed
tried
to
that
spend.
this year and it didn't
Yeah.
work. 'Cause I
haven't-
heard a thing about Prince. Prince, you guys know how young Prince looked once upon a
Mhm.
time. Like, he
Yeah.
would not have birthdays and he quit aging. So I thought I would try it this year. It's the first year
Yeah.
ever anyone decided to tell me happy birthday. Damn it.
Yeah, I haven't
But
done
yeah,
it since
that's true.
17, I think. Never
Wow.
celebrate my birthday anymore. I don't want it. I don't want people thinking that you have an age.
Wow, I love that.
It's a dumb thing to begin with, because you're already 1 year old and then we start counting. That makes no sense. So you're actually already 2 years old, or a year and 9 months, and you're 1 year. What happened to the other 9 months? Did you not exist that 9 months?
Right.
Yeah. And I love that you
Are you
brought that.
trying to tell me I'm older than I am? I don't like it.
Yeah, me too. Oh boy.
Yeah, I love that you brought that up, because I think that, you know, the thing that I would add too to some of these lifestyle things is just like mindset, meditation, and
Mhm.
that stress management piece of it is
Yes.
too, because you can lift weights all day long, but if you're angry while you're lifting weights and you stay
Yep.
angry all day long, you know, it's you're not going to have that longevity, that's for sure.
Yeah, and doing the things with conviction.
Yes.
There's a lot of research done in the 60s where people were literally working out without weights, but looking at people that actually did it with weights, and they had to literally visualize themselves doing it, and they grew more than the ones that actually did it with weights consistently. And that is really interesting. It's mind over matter.
Yes,
We
it really,
manifest everything. So
Yep.
without our mind, nothing exists. So before
Absolutely.
you speak, it's already generated in your mind. You can literally generate a picture in your mind, but the picture doesn't exist. You create everything within your mind.
yeah.
There was a documentary on Netflix called Heal. Has anyone heard of that?
Yes.
Have you seen
No.
it, Stacy?
Yes, I have.
And maybe you can help fill in like some of the bubbles that I'll forget, but that's what it was about. It was people who either had like severe accidents or were diagnosed with like stage 4 cancer, and it covered their stories and how they overcame it just with like their mindset.
Mhm.
Do you remember the name of the gentleman who got hit by the Bronco? I can't remember. He's
Oh, that's Joe.
famous. Okay, that's what it was, Joe Dispenza.
Yeah.
So the documentary starts out where he's telling the story of how he was a cyclist and he was training for something, I believe, training for a marathon.
He was
And
in
he was,
yeah.
I'm sorry?
He was in a triathlon. He was in the middle of a triathlon.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he was cycling and a Bronco came up from behind him and hit him. and catapulted him out, obviously off the bike. And he had severe spine damage. Was it his discs were misaligned and something of the sort?
Mhm.
And the doctor told him that he needed like this very serious surgery that I don't remember all the different things. I watched this, I don't know, like 2 or 3 years ago, but basically he needed the surgery, and for the rest of his life he was going to be subjected to this. And he said no, he didn't want to do it. And he went home and he started meditating, and he would focus on visualizing all of the different discs in his spine go together. And as soon as he would like lose the focus, he would stop and he would start again from the beginning. And I don't remember how, I think it was like 3 weeks or so. 6 weeks
Yeah.
that it took him to finally get all the way through.
What do you have?
Yep, exactly.
Oh, is that him?
Which one? I can't see. Which one is
Yeah.
that?
Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Joe Dispenza. He
I'm gonna
talks
have to
about
look
that.
that up. Does he? Yeah. So after the 6 weeks, and then it was like, I don't know. He healed himself basically. So, and there's other people in the documentary. I'm not sure if it's still on there. I don't have Netflix anymore, but if it is, it's something I would recommend everyone watch, because it's, once again, it's just like really powerful and really empowering how much control we actually have that we're
Yes.
led to believe that we don't.
So true.
Yeah.
And the more we intervene, the worse it gets. I've read a lot of stories about the Vietnam War where soldiers that were picked up by medics did not survive, but the ones that they left there all survived. It's us
Wow.
thinking that we know better what the human body needs, even though the human body knows exactly what it needs to do to survive. So once one stood on a landmine and lost pretty much the lower part of his body, the body instantly started producing everything that it needed to make the blood thicker, to stall everything, to shut down most critical or non-critical things just to survive. And they left them for over a week, I believe. And it's also combined with the fact that not eating. When you don't eat, you give your body the time and rest it needs to actually heal itself.
Yeah.
And everybody that was actually taken by the medics, the first thing they do was put you on an IV, diluting your blood, letting them bleed out before they could even do anything. So, yeah.
SJ, do you practice Dr. Joe's work?
I be honest with you, I've only read a little bit of this. And I've
What's the name of that again?
This one's called Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself.
It's a great.
Yeah. And I've watched a couple videos with him in it. But even before hearing about him and his work, I'd heard about a study, or I don't know if it was a study, but basically like a phenomenon where in China, people were like being taken up to this like mountain, not a retreat, but just like a place up in the mountains where that's what they're doing, is they're healing themselves with their thoughts. And you know that really exists, and I strongly believe that, you know, like you're saying, like I know that we barely even know, you know, like what we can do with our minds. There's so much that we don't know, and so much I think that is kind of restricted. I was just talking about this, and then I heard someone else start talking about the exact same thing. The fact that we're so distracted. We have so many things to distract us all the time from knowing ourselves and spending time with ourselves and you know, being kind of like one with ourselves. Like you were talking about earlier, Stacey, the peace and meditation and things like that. So many people are so far removed from that. And, you know, we have all these shiny objects around us that we, you know, are kind of being conditioned to not think about the power that we each have and the power that lies within us. So I'm definitely interested in learning more. And
I'd love to share with you, because I'm actually very heavily into Dr. Joe's work. I'm doing some training with him and went to a workshop, and he's doing a lot of science where he's taking people's like blood and stool samples before a week-long meditation retreat. And then again, after, he's got some researchers out of UC San Diego helping him, and they're getting some peer-reviewed journals published. And they're showing massive changes in the gut microbiome, different inflammatory factors in your blood, all changing in 1 week. Now that week, there's 42 hours of meditation happening, but it's amazing to actually kind of see some bio data coming out of that and the power of it.
Yeah, that's super exciting. Like, it's really great that there are people that are, you know, like Joe. And then there's a couple other books I wanted to show. This is David Sinclair. It's called
Yep.
Lifespan. He also does a podcast. It's interesting because I actually just shared a video with Identity Block where some people critique David and his work. I think he has a lot of good things to offer, but also just, you know, there's not one expert out there on this kind of stuff. So, you know, just keep that in mind. But then also this guy, Dave Asprey, this one's called Game
Oh, yeah.
Changers. Yeah. So just, I mean, it's been a really cool journey where I'm at this point of self-discovery and self-care, you know, like really taking care of myself, and at the point where I just want to learn how to do that better so that I can, you know, put that out into the world, you know, so my cup is overflowing kind of thing.
That's great that you're doing that, because so many people wait until they have a major health crisis before we.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
I'm doing it now.
Yeah. Thank you.
Do they mention frequency in any of those books, or sound?
Not that I've come to yet, but I saw what you shared earlier today. I love that. That was super cool. Like
Yeah.
that, when I saw that, I was like, that's how they moved the stones for the pyramids, y'all. That's
Oh yeah, how the
That's
different frequencies
totally
work
what I
together.
believe. Yeah.
Yep.
Part of me is like, I envision this like ancient like civilization where everyone is chanting at the same frequency or different frequencies, and that's how the stones were moved. I mean, that's just made up in my head, but like part of me just thinks like, how beautiful would that be if that's how the pyramids were built? Was that it was us chanting, right? Like using frequency to levitate blocks. Yeah. All right.
Freaking amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Really cool stuff.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
looking into the whole Rive thing now.
Yes.
More or less my
Yeah.
body. I have the machine already like 8 months here, but I haven't touched it yet.
Do you have is it the small one? Do you have the small copper disc thing? Is that
Let
what
me
you
get
have?
it. Yeah.
Okay. Because I know someone else who has one of those. Interesting.
I'm not familiar with it.
Rife
What he's
is
talking about.
it's basically a copper. There's a
It's
I'll show you what he's got.
It's a modern version of what the Rive machine should be. So this is a modern device of it, and what it does is generate frequencies, and then you have different pads that you could do on your body, or metal sticks that you can hold in your hand, and therefore receive
Is it like
the
a
frequency.
TENS machine? Is that different?
Not sure. Not familiar with
It is
TENS.
it is different. I'm pretty sure it's different. That sounds familiar too. But
That's also the
think Rife-
reason why they removed all the bells and clocks in the old cathedrals. So the narrative is that they did it for the medal for the war, but that's not the reason. They started removing those things way before there were wars, by the millions. It was a natural frequency that was sent over this realm to heal everybody.
All right.
That's exactly what the cathedrals were.
Yeah. There's a YouTuber called John Levi.
John Levi.
He covers a lot of stuff like that. I watch every episode that comes out. Really interesting. The things
It
he
is.
covers.
It's all fascinating.
Well, we have just a little bit of time left before we wrap up. Did anyone else have any questions or for SJ? No.
No questions, but looking forward to Saturday meeting everyone. And,
Oh yeah,
looking forward
have
to
fun.
Atlanta.
Yeah, and we'll be there on Friday as well, SJ. So depending on what I know you said you'd be there all week. I'm not
Yeah.
sure what you have going on, but maybe join us. I found a place we're going to go do a hike, and we're going
Oh,
to
I
meet
would
up
love
with
that.
Steve after he gets in a little later.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Yeah, fantastic. Keep me in the loop. I'm going to be here I'm going to be at the actual event center where we're doing the Atlanta Blockchain Center. They're allowing me to park the bus there and plug in and everything. So I'm heading there
good.
tomorrow. Yeah, and I'll be there all week. So just let me know
Good.
what's up. I'm about it.
I will. Cool. Well, thank you, everyone. I really appreciate y'all joining. SJ, it was a pleasure. Thank you so much. I'm glad finally got the opportunity to speak with you.
Yeah, it's been great.
All right. Well, y'all have a great night. Thanks for
Take
joining.
care, everybody.
Have a good one, guys.
Bye.